This message didn't find you by chance. There's a reason you're here right now. What you're about to read isn't just information, it's a turning point. You've spent time uncovering truths, questioning everything, walking through layers of discovery, and shedding beliefs that once held you down. But that chapter? It's closing. The phase of endlessly seeking is complete. Maybe you've been feeling like something's shifting inside you, a kind of silent pressure, like you're standing just before something important but can't quite name it. That feeling, it's the signal. You're no longer who you were, and the person you're meant to become is ready to step in. Here's where many get stuck. They think awakening is the goal, that life is about collecting insights, waiting for more signs, more messages, another breakthrough. But the truth most never hear. Awakening was just the starting point. Now that you've seen through the illusions, now that your awareness has expanded, what comes next is not more waiting, it's action, purpose, impact. You've been equipped with everything you need. The chains are off. The fog has cleared. So now the question isn't, what more do I need? The real question is, what will I do with what I've already found? Look around. Feel the shift in the atmosphere. Energy is accelerating, and those who've awakened are being called to show up. Not someday, today. You may still wonder, how do I know if my awakening is actually over? How can I be sure that it's time to step into my full potential? There are 7 unmistakable confirmations. Once you recognize them in yourself, the doubt fades, and something else takes over, clarity. But before we dive into those, I have to ask, if this message hits something deep inside you, a pull, a sense of urgency, that's because you already know. You've outgrown the waiting. You've arrived at the edge of transformation, and now it's time to walk through the door. Awakening was never the finish line. It was the doorway. Many are told that once they wake up, the journey is complete. That awareness itself is the destination. But that belief is the biggest trap of all. The real shift begins after the awakening. That moment you first realized there was more beneath the surface, more behind the noise. It was the spark, not the flame. It wasn't meant to be where you stop. It was where everything truly starts. You began to sense what others couldn't. See, you noticed patterns, energy, unspoken truths. Your intuition got louder. Life itself began speaking to you in a new language. That was the invitation. But here's the part that no one emphasizes. Awareness alone isn't the goal. Becoming who you're meant to be, that's the point. It's not about endlessly gathering wisdom or living in constant reflection. You've already done that. You questioned everything. You pulled back the curtain. You felt the disconnection from who you used to be and the world that no longer resonates. Remember how intense that stage was. Every belief got challenged, every assumption dismantled. You devoured knowledge, studied ancient truths. You let go of old identities and walked away from anything that didn't align. That phase served a purpose. But now you're standing at a choice point. You weren't meant to linger in the awakening phase forever. You weren't meant to endlessly search. At some point, the gathering ends and the becoming begins. This is where so many get stuck. They think if they just meditate more, read one more book, wait for one more confirmation, then maybe they'll be ready. But here's the truth: you already are. The discomfort, the internal push, that's not a sign to keep preparing, that's the signal to step forward. You weren't shown the truth just to sit with it. You weren't called out of the illusion just to stand still in awareness. You've been shaped by every lesson, every breakdown, every insight for this exact moment. The universe isn't going to push you. It won't drag you into your destiny. This is your move. You must choose to rise, to lead, to create. Because make no mistake, your presence is needed now more than ever. Every day you hesitate is a day your gifts could have made a difference. Your wisdom could have shifted something for someone else. Your light could have sparked change. So what happens after awakening? You stop talking about truth and start living it. You stop just sensing energy and begin to move it. You stop waiting and you become. And if you've made it this far, if these words are echoing through your soul, then you're not just awake, you're ready. There was a time when you felt like you didn't quite belong. You stood between two realities, the one you left behind, and the one you hadn't fully stepped into. The old world felt distant. The new one? Unfamiliar. That in-between space made you feel like an outsider in your own life. But something shifted. Now that lingering sense of isolation is gone. You're no longer seeking something external to feel whole. The need to search for signs, guidance, or proof has faded. You're not chasing connection anymore because you've realized you are connection itself. You're not out there looking for the universe. You've remembered that you are the universe, experiencing itself through a unique lens. That's a turning point few ever reach. This isn't about belief, it's not an idea. It's a deep, unshakable knowing that everything is woven together, and you're not on the outside looking in. You're part of the current. You are the current. In the past, you might have relied on synchronicities to reassure you. You needed constant signs to feel like you were aligned. Now, you trust the path without needing permission. You don't need confirmation, because truth lives inside you, and that's enough. Every breath, every step, every moment, you feel the rhythm of something greater moving through you. And that knowing silences fear. It quiets the mind. It creates peace. This doesn't mean life becomes smooth or problem-free. But the way you respond? Completely different. You no longer see chaos as punishment. You no longer resist uncertainty. You trust that every experience has meaning, even when it's not comfortable. When challenges arise, your question isn't why me, it's what is this revealing? That shift in perception is everything. Most people spend their lives feeling like they're separate from each other, from life, from something bigger. But you've broken through that illusion. Now you understand the truth that was always there. Nothing is separate. There was never a wall, just the illusion of one. And because you know this, you move differently. You walk through life with calm clarity, without the need to force outcomes. You're no longer trying to make things happen. You simply allow what aligns to meet you. You no longer cling, you no longer chase, you align, you receive, you influence the world just by being in it, because your energy speaks before you ever say a word. This is the first sign. The moment you stop feeling, apart from everything, and start realizing you are everything. There was a time when you doubted every decision. You questioned your thoughts. You asked others what they thought before you trusted your own feelings. You needed reassurance, constantly. Not anymore. Something inside you has taken root. That quiet knowing, the voice that once whispered, now speaks with clarity. You no longer pause every time you feel something deeply. You don't ask for endless signs to confirm what you already sense. Now when your inner voice speaks, you listen and you move. This change didn't happen overnight. You had to unlearn a lot. The mind used to run the show. Logic, overthinking, hesitation. But you discovered something far more powerful than thought, your intuition. And once you realized how often it was right, how it never led you astray, you stopped second-guessing it. Now you follow it even when it defies reason, even when no one else understands, even when the path looks uncertain, because you know something they don't. That truth doesn't always make sense to the mind, but it always resonates with the soul. When something feels off, you don't explain it away. When energy feels wrong, you don't stay to find out why. When something pulls you forward, you don't wait for a logical reason to follow. That's what trust looks like. Not blind faith, but alignment so real it doesn't need proof. You've stopped looking for outside answers. You've stopped waiting for permission. You've become your own guide, and it's changed everything. You don't waste time overanalyzing anymore. You don't spend hours weighing every option. You don't stall in fear. You act with certainty, even when the outcome is unclear, because the call inside you is louder than the noise around you. This doesn't mean life is always easy, but it does mean you're no longer lost. You've come to rely on something that can't be shaken, your own inner compass. It never lies. And now that you trust it, you move through life with a kind of freedom most people will never experience. This is the second sign. You no longer ask for guidance outside of yourself because you've realized the voice within has always been the answer. There was a version of you that believed success had to be visible. Money, recognition, possessions, they once seemed like proof that you'd made it. You were taught to chase those things, to measure your worth by what you owned or how others saw you, but that no longer holds you. You're not moved by status anymore. You're not striving for approval or trying to keep up with anyone else's timeline. The things you once thought mattered. They've lost their weight. Now your attention has shifted inward, not out of rejection but out of clarity. You haven't turned your back on the physical world. You've simply stopped letting it define your identity. Where once your choices were shaped by fear of not having enough, now you act from a place of trust. You know that what's meant for you doesn't need to be forced. You no longer hold on tightly to outcomes. You've stopped reaching from lack because you no longer feel empty. You understand that real richness isn't found in things. It's found in peace, in alignment, in purpose. That realization changed everything. You stopped comparing your life to others. You no longer feel behind. You don't look at someone else's success and question your own path. You're not here to collect trophies. You're here to live meaningfully. And now every move you make is guided by that knowing. When something doesn't resonate with your soul, you walk away, even if it promises security. When an opportunity doesn't align, you pass on it, even if it looks appealing from the outside. You've traded surface for substance. This isn't about rejecting abundance. In fact, abundance flows more freely now than ever, because you're not chasing it. You're aligned with it. You're not operating from desperation, but from clarity, and that shift, it changes how the world responds to you. Now, resources come when needed. Doors open without being forced. You attract rather than pursue. This is the third sign. You are no longer owned by what you once thought you needed. You've reclaimed your freedom, and now your energy is finally directed toward what truly matters. There was a time when stillness made you uneasy. Silence felt heavy. Solitude brought discomfort. You'd fill the space with noise, people, distractions, anything to avoid sitting with yourself, but that version of you is gone. Now, being alone feels like home. You've discovered something most never do. Your own presence is enough. There's no more restlessness. You don't feel the need to constantly be around others. You're no longer driven by a need for validation or company just to feel okay. That pressure has lifted. You've realized that solitude isn't a punishment. It's a sanctuary. It's where your mind settles. It's where your soul speaks. And more importantly, it's where you hear what truly matters. You've grown, protective of your quiet. You no longer allow chaos to enter your space just for the sake of having someone nearby. You don't keep up empty conversations. You don't hold on to connections that drain more than they give. Instead, you choose carefully, not out of fear but out of wisdom. You've learned that being selective with your energy is a form of self-respect. You'd rather be alone in alignment than surrounded by what no longer resonates. This doesn't mean you've shut the world out. It means your connections are intentional, your boundaries are strong, and your peace is non-negotiable. Now the moments of silence aren't awkward, they're sacred. You don't run from your thoughts, you listen to them. You don't fill the space, you expand within it. And this shift has transformed how others experience you. People feel something different around you, a calm, a presence, a sense of fullness they can't quite explain, because you're no longer reaching for anyone to complete you. You're already whole. Most people fear solitude because they haven't yet made peace with who they are. But you've done that work. You've sat with your shadows. You've embraced your light. And in doing so, you've found a kind of freedom that nothing external can give. This is the fourth sign. You've stopped avoiding your own company. You've stopped running from yourself. And in that space of quiet, you've discovered your greatest strength, inner peace. You've probably noticed it. People start opening up around you. Strangers share things they haven't told anyone. Friends seek you out for clarity, for comfort, for something they can't name. Even those who once dismissed you now return, drawn by a presence they feel but can't explain. This isn't coincidence. You're radiating something now, not by force but by frequency. Your energy speaks louder than words, and those who are searching for something real are naturally drawn to you. You don't need to chase. You don't have to prove. You simply are, and that's enough. You've become a mirror for others, a reminder, a guide. Some feel safe with you because they sense truth. Others are challenged by you, not because you try to change them, but because your presence disrupts their comfort zone, and still they return. Not everyone who's pulled into your orbit will stay. Some come for a moment. Some come for healing. Some come to remember something they've forgotten in themselves. You're not here to fix. You're not here to convince. You're simply holding a light, and the right ones will recognize it. This is the part where boundaries become essential. Because while your light heals, it's not meant to be drained. While your wisdom supports, it isn't for everyone to access freely. Discernment becomes your responsibility. You begin to see who's genuinely ready to grow and who's just looking to absorb your energy without giving anything in return. But the beautiful part? You also start attracting others who are like you, those walking their own path, those who don't need explanations, those who expand you rather than deplete you. You realize your circle may shrink, but it becomes solid. More depth, less noise. This is how you know you've shifted. You're no longer trying to fit in. You're no longer chasing connection. You are connection, and that energy draws exactly who needs to find you. This is the fifth sign. You've stopped seeking people. Instead, they find you because your energy now does what words never could. There was a time when you accepted things as they were. You took the world at face value, believed what you were told, followed the script handed to you. But now, that illusion has shattered. You don't just look, you see. You sense when something isn't right, even if everyone else buys into it. You feel the tension behind the words. You catch the misalignment, the manipulation, the hidden intentions. You no longer fall for surface appearances. Not in people, not in systems, not in the stories the world tries to sell. It's not about being cynical. It's clarity. You don't argue with everyone who's still asleep. You don't try to wake those who aren't ready. You observe, you protect your energy, and you choose wisely where to place your attention. You've outgrown the need to debate what's real, because you know. Your perception has sharpened. You recognize when fear is being used as control. You spot distractions designed to pull you off your path. You can feel when something is meant to disempower, even if it's disguised as truth. This awareness doesn't isolate you, it empowers you. You're not lost in confusion anymore. You walk with discernment, and that allows you to move differently. Strategically, intentionally. You're no longer emotionally pulled into everything around you. You don't give your energy to things that don't matter. You don't chase after what's loud, you follow what's real. And perhaps the most important shift of all, you're no longer controlled by fear. The tactics that once worked, pressure, guilt, threats of failure, don't reach you anymore. You've stepped outside that system. You no longer react, you choose. You no longer believe by default. You feel what resonates and leave the rest behind. This is the sixth sign. You've pierced the illusion. You've stopped playing roles that were never yours. You live in truth now, and that truth has set you free. There used to be uncertainty. You questioned your path. You wondered why you were here, what role you were meant to play, if any of this even had meaning. That doubt is gone now. What you feel isn't a thought. It's a pull, strong, constant, unshakable. It shows up in everything. A quiet urgency when you're not aligned, a whisper when you're off course, a fire in your chest when you're in the right place, doing the right thing. You're no longer just aware of your purpose. You feel the weight of it. You sense the time has come to do something with everything you've lived through, everything you've learned. You can't distract yourself the way you used to. You don't care about small talk, empty noise, or meaningless goals. You're focused now, not by force but by calling. This isn't pressure from the outside. This is your soul speaking, whether it's a need to create, to speak, to lead, to heal, to teach. And you might not have every detail. The road ahead might still be unclear. But one thing is certain. You can't go backward. You're not the same person who once waited for the right moment. You no longer need another sign. You no longer wonder if you're ready. You've outgrown the hesitation. Every experience you've had, every loss, lesson, breakthrough, and breakdown shaped you for this. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. The distractions that once held your focus feel empty now. The things you once chased feel hollow, And in their place is something real, a deep knowing that you were made for more than just surviving. You were made to move energy, to shift spaces, to spark change, to leave something behind that echoes beyond you. This is the final sign. You're not just awake, you're activated. The mission has begun, and the only thing left to do is answer the call. This isn't theory anymore, this isn't preparation. This is the moment everything you've been through leads to, the moment you become. You didn't wake up just to sit in awareness. You didn't receive insight after insight just to keep them inside. You were never meant to stay in the waiting room of transformation. You were prepared for impact. Now it's time to act, not tomorrow, not when everything feels safe, not when it all makes sense. Now everything you've faced, the struggles, the clarity, the shifts, has shaped you into someone who can no longer play small. You don't just understand energy anymore, you move it. Your thoughts carry weight. Your intentions create momentum. Your words hold the power to open doors or close them forever. So speak with meaning, move with purpose, create with confidence. From this moment on, you must protect your frequency like your life depends on it, because your mission does. You can't let people, environments, or old patterns pull you into places that no longer match who you are. Not everyone will understand the changes. That's fine. They're not meant to walk this road with you, but you. You've seen too much to stay silent. You've grown too much to shrink. You've heard the call too clearly to ignore it. Whether your gift is leading, healing, building, creating, guiding, use it. The world doesn't need more hesitation. It needs more light in motion. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop asking if you're good enough. Start trusting the part of you that knows. This is your moment to take everything you've become, every truth, every scar, every rise, and use it to reshape the world around you, because if you don't, someone stays in the dark who was meant to see your light. Someone waits for the very words you were born to speak. Someone misses the shift you were designed to spark. You are not just here to know. You are here to move, create, influence, lead, change, awaken. So stand up. Speak boldly. Walk in purpose. Use your power. The world is already watching. Now it's your move.